Welcome, everybody, to the latest edition of the Ultimate Cleveland Guardians Show. Yes, sorry, we are 2 minutes late. It is 100% Zach's fault. No, it's 100% my fault. I had a crazy night, a crazy morning. I'm getting my act together, but I got it together 2 minutes too late. Zach, I'll apologize to you personally in just a minute. It was an interesting weekend against the Braves, and we're going to talk about it. Braves win 2 out of 3. Guardians still with the best record in the American League despite losing 2 out of 3. But how do we feel about them after this weekend? Did it tell us anything? Did it tell us nothing? We'll get to all of it. And we want to hear from you as well. Send us messages in the chat. It's the Ultimate Cleveland Guardians Show, part of the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show family. Zach, how are you, buddy? Sorry I'm late.
I'm conflicted. I don't know what to make of this team because I'm almost more encouraged the way they played after they lost 2 or 3. They're in a weird spot.
I understand where you're coming from. I feel exactly the same way because there's part of me that says if you lose, it's bad, right? That's obviously true. It's not good to lose 2 out of 3. But the Braves are clearly the class of Major League Baseball. They are the best team in baseball, and that's with losing their best starter. They still have a good starting rotation. They have a good bullpen. Their lineup is fantastic. There's even, for a team like, and the Guardians have done it, but they're not as good as the Braves. They're good, but for you to lose your best starter and be like, we're still the best team in baseball, and Spencer Strider might be the best pitcher in all of the game or the last 2 years. So it is pretty impressive. So there's the part of your brain that, like, if the Browns lose a game, I don't make apologies for them or the Cavs, whatever. But yes, on some level, there's this, well, this was a measuring stick. This is a really, really good team. And it wasn't like you went in there and they smoked you 3 games in a row and it's like, okay, well, I guess we're not as good as we thought we are. You don't feel worse about the team after this weekend, even though you lost 2 out of 3 and they let yesterday's game get away.
This would be an easier conversation if they just would have gotten stomped.
Right, yeah.
Because I'm a skeptic by nature, and I keep waiting for that downturn where they just look like crap for a few days, and it hasn't happened.
No.
Most of their losses this season are by 1 or 2 runs. I mean, they're not getting pushed over by anybody.
Nope.
And look, I know we've talked so much about the schedule, and they've played Oakland a bunch, who, by the way, like, they're not great by any means, but they just gave Baltimore a really tough series too. So I don't know. It seems like they are going to be a thorn in the side of whoever they play, whether it's the Braves or the White Sox or someone in between. And I've just been assuming that this bad stretch is coming because of the pitching injuries, because the bottom half of the lineup, there's nobody who's really gotten going. And I think I have to readjust my expectations and just say, you know what? Last year was last year.
Right.
We come into this season saying, all right, they lost 86 games last season. It's largely the same group of players, so we're going to see similar results. And that doesn't have to be the case. It's a lot of young players. It's different coaching staff. I think a different mentality. You learn from failure. And I think maybe this team is just decent and can get better. There are moves they can make. There are players who can play better. And so, I mean, they gave the Braves a really good series, and you would have liked to win that one Sunday when you're up 2 runs in the 8th inning. And then, I mean, who could doubt where this team's at? But they're 19-9. It's not like we're saying like, hey, this is a nice, encouraging start. They're about 500. No, like they have the best record in the American League.
Right.
And I think they're proving that they can hang with whoever it is.
I think when a team gets off to an unexpected start, there's 3 ways you can look at it. You can look at it as, okay, they're 100% real and they're going to be fantastic all season. You can look at it as they're somewhat real. I think they're good, but they're not this good. And then they're totally phony. I don't think that's the case. I'm not buying. Like, the Pirates got off to a great start last year. I don't remember if it was as good as the Guardians. I don't think it was, but they got off to a good start, and then they completely cratered. We've seen teams do that. I don't think that's the case here. Mike, what I'm not sure about is, are they really, really good, or are they pretty good? Like, well, now pretty good might be enough to still win this division. I don't know how, we got to see more, but they're good. I mean, they're competitive. They're not. I'll be at this point, even though it is still early, we're a month in. I'd be stunned if they finish the season at 81-81, right? My expectations now have already changed where I'm like, I expect this team to win at least mid 80s, if not higher. Like worst case scenario now in my mind is mid 80s, which could still be good enough to win the division.
Yeah, I think that's where I'm at too. Because you take away, like before the season, if you would have told me, hey, they're going to go 72-90, I would have said, all right, like that's one of the scenarios that's possible. And then if you would have told me that Bieber is going to be out for the year and Gavin Williams won't pitch for the first chunk of the season and McKenzie's not going to look right and the offense is going to be what the offense was last year, like I would have said, okay, that makes sense. And they're not doing that at all. So it's confusing in a way because it's still difficult to see where this goes, but they just like it was cute when they got off to like an 8-3 start and it was like, okay, like let's see how long this lasts. You don't have Bieber and 19-9 it's legitimate. I think like the Royals are a couple games behind them and the Royals are maybe more of I don't even want to say phony because like they could win 78 games and I wouldn't be shocked or something like that. But I think they're more legitimate than some of the teams that you look across the league and you're like, I don't know that that's real.
Yeah, I agree with you. By the way, don't look now, but the Twins are playing much better, right? They've won 7 in a row. So the division.
It's the same thing, though. They got to play the White Sox. If only everybody could be so lucky.
Yeah, although the White Sox they've won 3 in a row. I mean, they're not going anywhere, but they've won 3 in a row. Couple of points you made earlier that are right. Oh, by the way, Oakland, I think, has a winning record against everybody but the Guardians, or they're at 500. So listen, their lineup is absolute trash. Their pitching is not absolute trash. It's not good, but it's not absolute trash. But something else he said about them being competitive, right? So they're 19-9, as you said. There's 28 games. So in 25 of their 28 games, they've either won the game or lost by 2 or less. So 3 games they've not been in the whole season. That's got to be amongst the best in all of baseball. I mean, maybe it is the best.
And that's the antithesis to last year where anytime they won, it was by 1 run and Clase had the bases loaded in the 9th and escaped by the skin of his teeth. And then when they lost by 12 and it was ugly. I mean, their run differential is still the best in the American League and it's 1 run behind the Braves for the best in baseball. So that tells you like they're doing this the right way and the way they're winning games is not so flukish.
11 of their 19 wins by 3 or more runs. Did they even win 11 games by 3 or more runs last year?
And it's not like the lineup is a juggernaut. I mean, like Kwan is hitting well, Naylor's hitting well. I think both of them have cooled a bit. It's not like they're doing anything otherworldly, and no one else in the lineup is exceeding expectations. So it feels like there's room to grow. That's why I'm more optimistic after that weekend series because this shouldn't be the best baseball they play. I do have questions about the pitching. I think I'll have questions about the pitching for the next 5+ months. But like even when the starters don't go deep, it's not like they're getting shelved, right? So they're like that. The way they approach that Atlanta lineup, which is eerily reminiscent to me of some 90s Indians teams. Like Acuna looked lost all weekend. Olsen looked lost all weekend. So they did a nice job. And I think there are ways they can get better as the season goes on.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt about it. And one of those ways could include a red hot Kyle Manzardo. What do you think the plan is? We assumed he'd be up around now. Obviously, he's playing well, but the offense has certainly been better than we thought. But as you said, there's nobody killing it outside of Kwan and Naylor. What do you think the plan is? What are they thinking? Is there a chance he's up this week?
Well, as we record this, I haven't gotten the bat signal. That can come at any time. But I think, to me, there's no reason to not call him up. They like to call up kids when they're going well. You want them to carry that momentum into their call up, and he's just on a tear. I mean, I don't think he has anything left to prove at AAA. I know he had some struggles there early last season when he was with Tampa. He was battling a shoulder injury. That's all in the rear view. Like, this kid is ready to tackle major league pitching, and let's see
Yep.
what you got. So then you start to think, okay, who is he replacing? That shouldn't be an issue. Like, there are at bats for him. I also think if you want the perfect scenario, I mean, you're facing 3 right-handed starters from Houston. You can get him in the lineup all 3 days.
Yeah. And
He
Houston's
can,
been terrible. Their pitching's been terrible.
yeah. And
But
so you don't have to like call him up and platoon him or ease him into it. You know, the question is, who does he replace? Is it Estevan Florial? Is it Ramon Laureano? Is it Will Brennan? Is it somebody else? I think that Manzardo would be better hitter than all of those guys.
yes.
The question is just the fit. And Florial has been starting at DH most of the time when he's played. That seems like an easy switch. Florial's out of options. You'd have to bail on that experiment. And that's the question. Are they ready to do that? Have they seen enough of him? The numbers overall, like the slugging percentage and on-base percentage for Florial are actually not bad, but he's striking out like 40% of the time. The metrics are pretty ugly, and
Yep.
they're not using him defensively much. So it doesn't seem like they're enamored by him at this point. I would think that he'd be the guy to go, but I don't know if they're ready to make that move yet.
Yeah, and I would think it would either be him or Laureano. The problem with Laureano is they paid him this money, and in the, it shouldn't stop them from moving on from him, but they decided to pay him. He's really done nothing. He's
But he's a right-handed hitter, though. That's the issue.
yeah,
Is
that's true.
he's
Fair.
still going to start
Only
against
lefty.
lefties.
Yeah, so Laureano's Florial is the obvious answer. And Brennan, I like having him in the mix. I wouldn't want to move on from him. I mean, obviously he has options. They could send him to the minors, but in the end, none of those guys are, as you said before, none of those guys are worthy of preventing Kyle Manzardo coming to the majors. And this is the perfect week to do it against a struggling Astros team, right-handed struggling pitchers. Well, I think they are facing Verlander, right? They're facing Verlander this week.
Yeah, you get Hunter Brown, Justin
Right.
Verlander, and Spencer Arrighetti.
Yeah, and Arrighetti and Brown have been awful.
Mhm.
They're young pitchers, but they've both been awful. We know Verlander's tough, but he's, he's 42 and he's coming. I watched his last start against the Cubs. He was okay, but he didn't have great command. So I mean, it makes a lot of sense. But as you said, we haven't heard anything yet, so we'll see what happens. It seems like the right time to make the move. Let's go back to yesterday's game a little bit, Zach, because before we do that, let's take a quick break. I know some people are sending us in some chats, so we'll mention those in a second too. But quick break. And I got a word for you from the Game Time app. I was away this weekend, and a friend of mine was saying, a friend of mine said to me, have you heard of the Game Time app? And I said, funny that you bring that up, because we have been talking about the Game Time app on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show and the Ultimate Cleveland Guardian Show quite a bit lately. With the NBA playoffs here, with Major League Baseball here, with the Stanley Cup playoffs, the Game Time app is awesome because the prices go down as the game gets closer to starting. You could save potentially up to 60%. In fact, my friend was telling me about tickets he got for a concert. I think it was Bruce Springsteen. I'm trying to remember now. It was Bruce Springsteen, yes. And he said, I'm not going to say the amount of money he paid for the Bruce Springsteen tickets, but I was blown away by how cheap they ended up being, because he had the guts to wait till the last minute. He basically bought them like an hour or two before, or whatever it was, a few hours before the game from the Game Time, or the show from the Game Time app, and he got a great deal. So you could take advantage of it as well. Download the Game Time app now, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Again, terms apply. Create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. So there you go. Why I'm hitting the open again. There you go. No open. We just hit that. Zach, let's go back to yesterday's game. Obviously the Guardians blew that game. Hunter Gaddis, who'd been pitching really well, had a bad day. But then in the 10th, a couple of questionable base running moves. And what was shocking is, Stephen Kwan in that situation. And I know he wants to, I get it to some degree because you feel like in the extra innings, you got to have that runner on third in case there's a sacrifice fly. I just feel like with the good hitters coming up and his great speed, and he's going to score. I get it. He can't score on a sacrifice fly as if he's on third. But third is a lot trickier than stealing second, obviously. What did you think of that decision there?
Yeah, the theme to me all day was they never got the big hit when they needed it. They couldn't cash in that one more hit that would have they would have won 2 or 3. It would have been a happy flight to Houston. And so I thought maybe there was a little desperation there as the game went on, and really smart base runners who never make mental mistakes did it at the worst time. So it was weird to watch, right? Like it's so uncharacteristic. And if that happens in a 7-1 game, you don't ever think about it. But because it happened in Atlanta in a tight game there, it just reeked of desperation and trying to make something happen because it was so hard for them to deliver that big hit when they needed it.
Yeah, and that's weird because they haven't played that way at all. And we know that Stephen Kwan and Jose Ramirez are, 2 of the smartest players in baseball, I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of made it even more shocking watching the way that happened.
Yeah. So I and that's what I mean. It's like they're like the Braves lineup. It's insane.
Yeah.
They had guys hit like Kelnick is like a project for them. And I understand like he has had ups and downs in his career, but when you can hit him ninth, that's quite the luxury. And they've got, Marcell Ozuna lurking. You think the top 4 is tough, and you get through Acuna and Albies and Riley and Olsen, and you think you can exhale. And then Ozuna's been like the best hitter in the National League this year. And Arcia is awesome hitting behind him. Michael Harris is
a really good young player. I mean,
so
they're loaded. And that's with Sean Murphy's on injured reserve.
Right.
And Travis d'Arnaud, who didn't play yesterday, has been great.
There's nowhere to breathe.
Yeah.
And I think you feel like you have to either just capitalize on any little opening you can or make something happen out of thin air. And you just feel more pressure to just like when you're in position, like first of all, to escape there without the lineup ever exploding. It just felt like the Braves, whenever they wanted, could snap their fingers and have a 5-run inning. And they didn't do that. And you had great pitching all weekend. So it felt like just how huge it would have been to capitalize on that and get a second win in that series. And I think you just had guys doing too much. And that's why I think, the lineup, there are ways to make it better. And Manzardo is one of those ways, I think, but they need more from the Freeman, Brennan, whoever else is out there in the outfield contingent. If it's Florial, if it's Laureano, like, look, I know a lot of people in the chat are saying you could DFA Laureano, it'll be okay. I get it. He's done absolutely nothing. I'm just saying the way the roster is constructed, because he's a right-handed hitter, and historically has done pretty well against lefties. Like that's why they paid him $5 million. So I'd be surprised if they cut him this early. Doesn't mean that they won't at some point, especially if he keeps this up. He's been terrible offensively. He's got a .216 slugging percentage. So they need more from him, and they need more from Bo Naylor. But I think that's the key, is you got to make sure guys aren't feeling that pressure to take that extra base if it doesn't make sense, because you need just more consistent hitting throughout the lineup. They haven't had that.
Yeah, Bo Naylor, I'm surprised. I expected him to get off to a good start. Again, it's still early. We talk about, hey, it's still early, don't go crazy with the record. Well, for the guys who are struggling, it's still early, especially guys. And for me personally, I have way higher expectations of Bo Naylor than I do for Ramon Laureano. But yeah, I mean, I get it. The fans want to see. And by the way, listen, I'm not saying this is going to happen because there are plenty of guys who come up and do great. We know that. But Jackson Holliday is the best prospect in baseball. And the Orioles called him up a few weeks ago, and everybody was excited. I got him on my fantasy team. I was excited, right? Well, he went about like 1 for 40 or whatever it was. I mean, he barely had any hits. and he went back to the minors. That doesn't mean he's a scrub or he's never going to be good. He's probably going to be great eventually. But for whatever reason, you never know. Kyle Manzardo is not the prospect that he is. So, that Jackson Holiday is. So Manzardo, yeah, he might come up, hit a bunch of home runs and be fantastic and never go back to the minors. He also might start 2 for 38 with no extra base hits and be back in the minors in a couple of weeks. Just because a guy's good in the minors, it doesn't always translate. It certainly doesn't always translate right away. But I understand the excitement of the unknown when you have guys in the lineup that are not performing is intriguing and makes you want to see those guys.
Well, and I think it's a good time to find out.
Yeah,
If
absolutely.
he's going to go 2 for 40, do that now, because
Yeah.
it's not like there are other guys in the lineup who could go 2 for 40, and at least you are 19-9, and you've built yourself a cushion, and it's a winning environment, it's a healthy environment, and you're not calling him up saying, "Hey, we're pinning all of our hopes on you, and you need to be our savior."
I agree. And also, but by the way, like, how does Josh, like, if Manzardo comes up, Josh Naylor's going to DH more often. How does he feel about the DH spot? There's some guys that don't like being in the DH spot. How does he feel about it?
Yeah, I mean, I know he likes playing the field.
Yeah.
I think it's an adjustment. I also think it's if Manzardo can come up and just focus on his hitting, and
Yeah.
he's primarily the DH, and I know like he's not going to start 7 days a week. I'm sure when he comes up, they'll sit him against certain lefties and they'll ease
Right.
him in because they also like having the flexibility of the DH.
Sure.
But I do think there's a way, and I think Stephen Vogt's done a good job of this, of just rotating guys, keeping everybody fresh. I mean, like no matter what Josh Naylor feels about it, the guy has never played more than 122 games in a season. So
That's right.
if they can DH him a little more and keep him healthier, I think that's a benefit that he should be on board for.
I mean, we talked about this last week. Josh Naylor right now is the best hitter on this team. He's the guy you want up in the big spot. He's a clutch hitter. He's an RBI machine for the last couple of years. Yeah, I mean, if he needs to play DH to get him to 152 games instead of 122 games, I mean, think about the difference of 30 more games with his bat in the lineup. That could be the difference between them winning 90 and being the 2 seed in the AL to winning. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to go over the top on how much difference that would make, but it could be the difference between winning the division or not. Or it could be the division between some sort, home field advantage or what seed you are or who you play. And that's pretty important.
I mean, I think we agree the top 4 in the lineup is fine. I wouldn't.
Yeah, sure.
They need more from Jimenez. He hasn't hit a home run yet, and then they need more from Jose too, of course.
Right.
I think that those things will happen. The top 4 in the lineup has been good.
Yeah.
You want to keep that top 4 healthy. You need those top 4. It's
Absolutely.
the bottom 5 who, it's the good thing is it's been one guy stepping up each day, and it's someone different, and that's helped them. Somehow they rank pretty highly in runs per game. It doesn't quite make sense, but you need those 4 to stay healthy. You need Jose to play 150 games. You need Naylor to finally, to set a career high in games played. So that's going to be a key. And then you add Manzardo to that. You see who else is producing, whether it's Jonathan Rodriguez at AAA or Juan Brito or so Chase DeLauder eventually.
Yep.
And you have to make decisions on some of these guys, So you need Brennan to prove that he deserves to be in the mix and can be Mikey McNugget's MVP. You need Tyler Freeman to start getting rewarded for his hard hitting. And you need more from like Arias and Roque. Like that's the thing about like how they lost 2 or 3. I can't come on here and be shouting and screaming and yelling because they're 19-9, and it feels like only a couple of guys are really exceeding expectations.
Yeah, there's not really. Listen, you want to win every series. I get it, but that's not realistic. It's baseball. I think they've only lost 2 series, right? Is that the case?
Yeah, Yankees and Braves.
Right. So, yeah, there's not much to be upset about. Let's see what the fans have to say. I want to read some. We're going to go rapid fire with the comments here. Evan419 just gave that game away on the base pass. We discussed that. That's true. Christian says, we are playing above expectations so far. Not worried at all. Mikey was really impressed with the series against Atlanta, even though we lost 2 of 3. The pitching was great. Germ, my brother is an Atlanta fan, and I can't stand it. Both born and raised here. He's a big Browns fan, though. Well, bleep him, Jerem.
How about that Falcons draft, right?
Yeah. Oh God, everybody's pissed about that. And watch, they'll end up having the best draft. Everybody giving draft grades. So I was just recording my other podcast earlier this morning, and I'm not giving a draft grade. I don't know enough about these players. They're coming out of college. What I did was I gave my draft grade for the Browns 2022 draft because we actually have information on that draft now. It's so stupid, draft grades, but people, got to sell their outlets. I get it.
Are we gonna grade the Guardians draft in July after they have the first overall pick?
I think we must. It's the first overall. Usually people don't pay attention to that, but this year we will. Let's see. Okay, Streeter. Sup, guys? Finally get to catch live this week off work today. Streeter, welcome aboard. He says he DFA Laureano, which you referenced already. Streeter, he also says Manzardo's going to be the real deal. Just sucks because they won't bring Josh back after his contract is up. I don't know that that's a sure thing. Do you think that Josh is definitely gone at this point?
I wish I could know exactly what contract Josh Naylor would sign. It might even be more interesting to know what kind of contract the Guardians would envision for him. I would imagine the number of years is probably the sticking point more than the money, because the Guardians probably were hesitant for the reasons we laid out. The guy has not been the most durable player, but he's proven, I mean, he can hit, and that's not just going to go away in 3-4 years. Yeah. So maybe there's some middle ground. You would have thought that they'd strike it this spring. I think he's going to have more leverage for sure next offseason when he only has 1 year left. And if I'm the Guardians, I'm not just in a hurry to move on from guys who have proven they can hit. They don't have 9 of those who can fill out a lineup yet.
Right. That's fair. Benjamin says, can someone explain why it wasn't a balk when Quan attempting to steal third base? Do you want to explain it? You want me to, Zach?
Go ahead. It was the lefty on the mound, right? And he lifted his leg and then just spun around.
Right. Which you can do. You just can't do that at first base. You can't fake a throw to first, essentially. But
and he hadn't, his momentum wasn't carrying him to the plate yet.
Right. That's right. So it was fine. Old Ben, Hunter bleeping Gaddis. Damn it. Listen. Yeah, Gaddis had a bad day, but he's been great for the Guardians. Even the best pitchers are going to have a bad day time and again. Unfortunately, his bad day came on a bad day. So, what are you going to do?
And in front of a lot of friends and family.
Yes, that was unfortunate. He's 0-2-1-6. Let's see. Bro, I couldn't care less. The amount of innings they're pitching now is going to break an MLB record. All of them are on pace to reach 90 innings by season's end. Are you worried about the bullpen innings?
Yeah, I think the issue is that you're going to see what you saw with Gaddis, where they're leaning on these guys so much that you're just going to have more blowups because they're going to pitch more. Yeah. I don't think anyone's been crazily overworked yet, but I do think that there is a little, you need more from the rotation, I think is the bottom line. And the tough part is that they haven't been efficient, but also, you're like Carrasco's not going to give you 6 2/3. That's just not realistic at this stage of his career. Ben Lively, I thought he's been great all 3 starts, and yet, he's averaging 5 innings a start.
Right. It's tough.
So it's just, I don't know how you're going to get more innings. They need what Bybee did Saturday night was really impressive. They need more of that. They need Logan Allen to pitch deeper in games. They need McKenzie to be McKenzie, but that's a lot of ifs right there.
Some guy in my fantasy league just cut McKenzie yesterday, and this is a deep league. We have 32 active players, plus you can have an injured list, and it's 16 teams. So it's not like, you have to be bad to get cut. And anyway, old Ben gave us a super chat. There's no reason not to sign Naylor. He plays in a small market with limited media hype and exposure. He produces in clutch time. Yeah. At this point, and Jason and I were talking about this on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show the other day, and he's like, if you're Naylor at this point, why would you sign? So at this
play with your brother.
Right. That's the one thing. But is that enough? I don't know. I got to do a quick break. Let's hit a commercial break here real quick, and then we'll wrap things up with a look ahead. Folks, let me talk to you about Monopoly Go. Monopoly Go is everybody's playing it right now. Everybody's excited about it. You can team up with your friends for time tournaments where you work together to build up each other's boards. The more you win together, the more awesome prizes you unlock, and there's so much to get. Unique stickers you can trade with a friend to complete albums for big prizes, cool new playing pieces to travel the boards with, hilarious emojis. Everybody loves emojis. You can win those too. Plus, Monopoly Go feels new and exciting every day with constantly changing tournaments and challenges. A ton include their own unique mini games like digging for treasure or a robot pachinko machine. I'm not sure what that is, but I'm sure most of you know, and it sounds big. And there's always new timed events to help you win big, like massive multipliers for everything you win or rent frenzies. There's always something fun to discover with Monopoly Go. So get off the bench and go download it now for free on Google Play or the App Store. Game on with Monopoly Go. All right, Zach, let's wrap it up looking ahead to what's going on this week. You mentioned earlier they'll play the Astros in Houston starting tomorrow. 3 straight 8-10 starts, Carrasco and Brown on Tuesday, Mackenzie Verlander on Wednesday, Allen and Arrighetti on Thursday, and then the Guardians come home for a 6-game homestand. It begins next weekend with the Angels. So what's are you going to Houston or no?
Yeah, I am.
All right.
These aren't your father or grandmother's Astros. They're
No.
9-19.
It's hard to believe they're this bad.
Yeah, and if you look at the individual stats offensively, guys are doing mostly what you would expect them to. Like Bregman's been not great, and Jose Abreu's been like the worst hitter in baseball.
Well, they're calling up. It was interesting.
Yeah.
We've been talking about the Guardians calling up the Astros are calling up Joey Loperfido, I believe is how you say his name. He's
13 home
their
runs.
best prospect because Abreu, I think he's an outfielder naturally, but he's been playing first. And because Abreu's been so bad and Singleton, who they've used the first, has been so bad, they're calling up their top hitting prospect. So that'll be interesting.
But like Pena's been really good. Tucker's been really good.
Yeah,
Altuve's been really good. So
Yeah.
it's not. It's strange that they're 9-19.
Their
The starting
pitching's
pitching
been really bad.
Yeah, it's been a mess. But you'll get 2 of the 3 guys who have been really struggling. Verlander's only made 2 starts because he was injured. So it's always a little scary going to Houston because that place is tough to play at. The Astros are historically good, and you only have to think back to last summer when they got no hit. I think they got swept, and there was a mini mutiny in the clubhouse when they traded everybody. So, I would think things can go better this time, and it's just an opportunity to like stomp on them when they're down.
That's right.
And if you can go 2-1, I think people would sign up for a 3-3 trip to these 2 cities.
Thanks, everybody, for watching. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. We're less than 232 away from 40,000 subscribers to the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. Zach, great job as always. We'll see you next time on the Ultimate Cleveland Guardian Show.